Well, he's the hometown guy, so we'll let him start. He's born and raised here.
My father played sports all his life, high school, college, and such. And I basically the first toy I had was a little ball of some kind rolled into my crib. So I didn't get it naturally. It was kind of forced naturally, but that's all I remember is playing ball. So.
And I just thought of something. When he got delivered, it was during the '54 flood, and he got to go home in a rowboat underneath the viaduct. I remember him telling me that. So.
Well, I moved to town in 6th grade and didn't know anybody, lived next door to my cousin, the Chipmans, and then just playing neighborhood sports. I always grew up because my brothers were good athletes. My mom was the best athlete in the family.
Was she?
And then just grew up playing, sports, and Chipman had the court where we played. You guys had a court.
We all played together as kids.
My dad put lights up, and that was the first outdoor court in Plymouth with lights. And I still remember Coach Yoder saying, I'd stand down the end of the block where you couldn't see me at night and watch.
He would and watch?
And
I didn't know that.
And it was a mecca of people that would come in to play there. So I just sort of got morphed into sports in Plymouth, and these guys were a year older, but got to play with them in high school.
Isn't that neat?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
We played a ton of sports over at Lincoln too, at the outdoor courts.
Yes.
And just that's all you did in Plymouth. You played sports.
Well, yeah, you rode your bike around and you had pickup games.
What'd you do in the wintertime? We shoveled the courts off.
Yeah.
Shoveled the basketball, shoveled the snow off.
We'd always shovel your aunt's court off, remember?
Yeah.
And we'd play your aunt's.
And then take that rubber ball, put it in the sink, and run hot water over it, and come out, and it would bounce better. That doesn't happen anymore.
Jimmy Masters learned to play basketball in my backyard court, right behind the house. He was Mr. Basketball. Probably
Fort Wayne Harding.
Yeah,
Wayne
probably 2 years before, but been 1980.
Yeah.
He had to go to Fort Wayne to become Mr. Basketball, but he was still Mr. Basketball.
And the court we played on at Chipman's, if you remember, we had some brutal games. Well, Jimmy played. I mean, you think all the good names. Grimm played there. These people are coming in from out of town. These are great players. Jimmy Masters played there. Skiles played there. Yep. You can name guy after guy.
Kevin Widener.
Pick up basketball.
Just pick up basketball.
And
hour after hour.
We used to also, if you remember the summer leagues, we played a summer league where the kids were semi-organized, and we used to play at Webster School.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, outside, and the neat thing is we'd be like 8th graders and 7th graders, and we were playing against guys that were seniors in high school and juniors in high school.
Yeah.
And believe me, that helped a lot, playing against the better players like that.
It humbled you.
Definitely humbled us. Yeah.
For sure.
And also gave us a feel for the younger kids too when they were coming up. So I think it helped some of the younger guys too. So.
I moved from Tippecanoe in 3rd grade. I moved here from the Triton School Corporation. I moved over here in 3rd grade and went to Webster School and became a classmate at an early age with Gary. So we moved here in December of '63. Yeah. So.
Yeah, but 3rd grade.
3rd grade, yeah. That was 5th grade team, 6th grade. Maybe not 5th grade, but 6th grade they started playing, so we were organized together.
One of my best memories of 5th grade was when we got to play in Centennial Gym.
Oh God, don't even go there.
That was a Plymouth, or like Webster School would play Washington School would play at half times. So we're 5th graders and we're playing in front of 2,000 people, 3,000 people, whatever it was.
Yeah.
It was the day of the year for all of us.
Sure.
I remember the first time going on that court.
Yeah.
We came in got in on a Saturday or something. Mercer got us in.
Yeah.
And I was new in town. I walked into this place and I thought it was a cathedral.
Yeah.
I was just in awe, and the smell, and it's just, there's a few places like that still, but not many.
Yeah, a 2,200 seat cathedral, and that's what it seated. So, and I think Plymouth, back when we played right before us, they had about 2,000 season ticket holders. So the opposing teams would only get like 100 or 150 tickets to be able to come to the game. So
when I smell popcorn now, my hands start sweating and I'm ready to go. I go into the movies and I'm ready to shoot.
You're thinking Centennial, aren't you?
Yeah,
it's true
cool.
too. Yeah.
It was up there.
Oh my gosh.
It was important. It was a basketball town, and especially come tournament time. But the regular season was, like Gary said, it was only 2,000 seats, and we'd play Friday and Saturday nights back to back, and a lot of people, a lot of good fan support, and we had some so-so teams that were entertaining, and then we had some pretty good teams too. But the fever pitch is a good word.
It was the whole community, not just Plymouth, but the county and the whole area.
Northern Indiana.
Indiana basketball. What is it, 14 out of 15 largest gyms in this United States are in Indiana?
And that's why.
That's exactly why. That's how much interest there was.
Yeah, so. It really is.
I say Warsaw, but
yeah, those dirty tigers and dirty zebras.
Hated them.
Zebras and tigers probably the top.
Yeah, Rochester. Bremen was in there for football.
Yep.
Yeah, for other sports, but basketball, it seemed like it was Rochester, and it seemed like it was Warsaw.
And as the county seat, we were what everybody was after too, because we were the bigger school, the county seat. And there were some really good smaller schools. Triton was
terrific.
Really good.
It just depended. In our years, maybe we were stronger than Triton, but Triton had they'd gone to the state before that.
Like in 65 or 66 when they became Triton, I remember going to those games. They just missed the state. They lost in the night game of the semi-state in Lafayette, but they were just that close to getting to the state.
And Argus was terrific a couple of years after. We were just talking about when they went on their big run they would have been smaller than Milan if they could have won the state.
Good guys, good coach, Phil Waybright, all those guys. And they had some athletes, but they also, what carried over for them was their soccer success.
Absolutely.
They all played a small school, they all played soccer, and they were state champs in soccer, if I'm not mistaken. And that carried over, and those guys were just like this.
Yeah.
Not that we weren't, but
it
was just a great group of guys.
Well, and they had the Sheetses and the Jennings. They had groups of families, and they did the same thing down in Argus.
Odell's.
Yeah, they played.
Snyder's.
They played on Sheetses basketball court, and there was nothing more important to them than beating us.
Yeah.
I'm not pointing our importance out.
No.
But we were like beating Indianapolis Attucks or something. If they could beat Plymouth, because they would have.
And that's sort of what's lost in basketball now a little bit. Class is nice, you get a lot of champions, but it just has lost that little bit of a feel of that community rivalries. Yeah.
Don't get me going on class.
Remember John Glenn? They had Dayhuff.
Oh God, Glenn was great too.
Harness.
We beat them. Seemed like by 1 point every year.
Yeah.
And I'm sure. Well, I know one guy still hates my guts.
Yeah.
But I knocked him out in the baseball game, so that was at the plate.
Reese?
No,
Castillo?
not Reese. Castillo.
Oh yeah.
He was a catcher.
I still see Johnny Harness once in a while.
Yeah,
he works
I do
up
too.
at Notre Dame, and haven't seen Bruce Dayhuff forever.
He
was a good guy.
I see Dave. Yeah.
Is he around, didn't he?
No, he lives back in town, and we give him a call and been to a couple Notre Dame games with him.
He lives back in Walkerton?
Yeah.
Gosh, I haven't seen him for years. I'd love to see him again.
Yeah.
Wow.
So a lot of good, rivalries, lots of them.
And we knew most of them too. The Trowbridges of Triton and Danner and all these guys.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't think we know them as well as kids do nowadays, though. Because kids play summer ball so much together,
that's true.
And social media, but it was like, I can still remember when Greg Sheets came up here and we played at Glob's basketball court. The first time I met Greg, and I thought, Argus, it's like, oh, he's all right.
Everyone used to just have to pick up the phone then and call around, and it was like a chain, and almost every day there was a game going somewhere. And I don't think that happens anymore.
He was the ringleader of calling us, hey, the game's going on, because he was on the south side. My phone was always ringing, hey, there's a game going on. And so, and you knew they were, but he was always organizing the games, it seems like.
If not, I was tired of playing against my brothers.
Hey, we got to go back to Warsaw, though, because we're juniors, and we play Warsaw at Warsaw, and they beat us in 4 overtimes. Well,
Hannah on a half-court shot.
Yeah.
I was just looking at that.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a back-and-forth game, and I don't remember a whole lot about it, but...
I had surgery about 2 weeks before that, and I was playing with these goggles on, and I kept having to lift them up and open. So
I remember that,
I think that was my first game back. I had cataract surgery, and so I didn't get to play much you guys played a lot, but it's like,
A lot of us fouled out.
Yep.
boy.
I remember that, and they won on literally a half-court shot.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell the story a little bit later about this because it ties in with my son. But anyway, I just remember I got a rebound. No, somebody else, Warsaw got the rebound under our basket, but I stole it from the guy, put it up, and got fouled with like 7 or 8 seconds to go, but I missed the free throw. So we could have won in, I think, the second overtime. I tied it up, but I missed the free throw. So then, we ended up losing. But
You always remember the ones you missed, don't you?
yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
carry that further. Do y'all also remember I think it was our junior year or sophomore year we lost?
Well, that was our junior year that we played Warsaw. And
But
lost
then
the
we beat them
That's
in
where I
2
was going.
overtimes in the regional finals
To get to the semi-state.
and beat them
for the conference
For the
championship
conference
at Triton.
in 2 overtimes.
At Triton,
Yep.
and Triton seats 3,500, and the gym was full before the B team game started. And
Yeah.
there was banners being carried around the top, and there were some fights going on. I mean, I'm serious. Tim Mattern got in a fight, remember, in the restroom?
Imagine
And-
that.
Yeah, imagine
Yeah.
that. But, oh man, it was just such exciting times, just pins and needle type time.
Probably the best. We won the last game ever played in Centennial Auditorium. Scoreboard downstairs has the score on it. We didn't know it was going to be the last game, but they had won the conference championship the year before
Right.
and had everybody back.
Yeah.
Right.
And we beat them with an 11. We weren't even 500 at the time. We ended up being 11-11.
Yeah.
But I think at the time we were probably, I don't know.
That was
8
our
or 10 or
that
something
was
like
our
that.
season though, because we would get down and then we could just get we'd get
Right.
stupid and come back and score all these points, and it was the same way in that game. And the crowd was huge. in
Well,
those
we liked to
games.
press, and Centennial was so tight and so close that, I mean, the fans literally were right on top of you. So when you would press and get some buckets, I mean, the crowd would get in a frenzy, and it was like they were on the court.
You could tell if the guy in the front row had bad breath or not.
Yeah,
It was
it
like
was-
right.
Absolutely.
It was.
There was 2 10-second lines. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, Nick, but so you had to go over the 1 10-second line to go down at your end offensively, but as soon as you crossed it, then you got to go back to the second 10-second lines so that you truly
Over
had
back,
a full
yeah.
court.
It was like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was your back.
And there was a line around the
And-
side, a one thin line that you could stand
About 3
inbounds,
feet in.
had that much.
because the wall was
Yeah.
the wall was closer than this wall where we're sitting.
It was definitely
The
a
black line to
home
the wall.
court advantage. It was.
Yeah,
it
it
was
was.
a hot box, and the teams from South Bend did not like coming down here
No.
to play.
Yeah.
That won a few games for us. There's no
Oh,
doubt about it.
absolutely.
Oh, I thought it was
Yeah.
a 5-10 point advantage to play at Centennial.
Sure it
And
was.
yeah, to lead, and you guys got to. That was your junior year when we
Right.
beat them, and
Right.
then we played at Triton for
Right.
years to come
They had
until they
it
built
had
a gym.
also had the best floor probably I've ever played on. That
Spring-
floor was it was like a springboard.
Yeah.
You could jump an extra 2 inches. I'm not kidding you, because we used to practice in the one in the high school gym and come over and play in the Centennial gym.
had some ups.
And that was the first place I ever touched the rim.
Yeah.
You know. But
Yeah, I was telling that story the other day at coffee about trying to touch the rim in 8th grade in
Oh.
Centennial Gym, and
Yeah.
took off from half court and jumped up. My hand got stuck in the net, ended up on my back.
Yeah.
I was probably that far away from the rim, but I thought I was going to touch the rim, and it didn't work out.
now it's good. Neither one of us can touch a net
Yeah,
anymore.
no, I'm not sure I can get air anymore.
Hey, I got to tell this one about the last game. I don't know if you remember practicing, but before, but we knew Grimm was the star player at Rochester, and Coach Yoder, he's going to see that, or maybe he'll see it if you put it in, Nick. But anyway, Coach talked to me because I usually, when I come in, I guarded the best offensive player. But he said, but I wasn't that night for some reason. But he said, I want you to get into the heads of the other players. He said, ask them when you're guarding them. He said, ask them how come you never get to shoot? Because this Bruce Grimm always shot. And so he told me to ask these guys during the game, how come you don't get to shoot?
Trash talk.
Yeah, it was the first time I'd ever been told to trash talk and that was our coach doing it, and he normally wasn't. Not that was bad, but it was just funny as I think about it now. It was trash talking. That was it.
So you're blaming it on Yoder.
I am.
Yeah,
You think I'm a trash talker besides, or what?
and wasn't that the game where there was a foul on, was it Grubbs was the guy's name? Threw
Grubb-
Kevin
or
Widener
Grubb, yeah.
down, and
Yeah.
there was a technical.
I read that. You're
Yeah.
right. He got thrown out of the game.
Yeah, he got thrown
I
out of the
didn't
game
know
because
that.
we were talking about that on the phone the other day. And
I
Kevin
just
goes,
read that.
Yeah, he got thrown out of the game, so I did my job.
Yeah.
He was the other guard.
Yeah.
He was the other guard.
Yeah.
And of course, Bruce ended up in our team for our
Senior year, he transferred up.
He was I loved playing with the guy. He was a great player. He
Oh,
could
yeah.
score. Parade All-American.
They tried to put a rivalry, the paper did. Actually, it was a Rochester paper. When they were coming here, I read it just the other day, trying to, they made up stuff about me and Grimm hating each other because Grimm was going to come here and he was going to start in my place. I mean, I read that. I think Judy sent me that.
It could be. She might have.
And there was no truth to it all.
No.
And we were friends, and we all ended up playing.
Yeah.
We all ended up starting. We played, I think, 4 guards at one time.
Yep.
If you count Aker as
Yep.
a guard. So.
Yep,
And,
sure
and
did.
Roger Heck.
And Roger Heck.
Yeah,
Yep.
as a starter. But anyway, so even back then there was fake news.
That's good, Jared. Hey, one thing about Centennial that I just got to say, my father-in-law was Bob Heilman. He was the first athletic director at Plymouth, but he played in the very first game at Centennial as a JV player. So the first organized game at
Wow.
Centennial, he played. I played in the last game that was the high school
That's
game.
wild.
It is. And then,
When was the first game? What year?
like 37 or 38.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
And then his son, Dave Heilman, played in the first JV game of the new gym. So it was really weird
Oh,
how
intertwined,
he, they were both JV players when they played in the first 2 gyms,
Yeah.
and then
Hey, the other thing about Centennial is it wasn't just for basketball. We had lunch in there in
Yeah.
junior high. We were in grade school and they brought us over for spring festivals. They had Miss Plymouth in there, probably something
did on
else,
the
probably
stage.
Miss Bourbon and everything else in it. I didn't go to one.
Graduation?
They had
Graduation
graduation
was in
every
there.
year. Last year was '76, so they condemned it for basketball, but they were still putting the students up in there for graduation.
Right, I remember walking
it was a
down
civic center.
I never thought
It
about
was.
that.
Yeah, it was Civic Center. So
And what I'm gonna miss is just coming up to it at night and seeing the light, because it had all glass around the top. So as you're driving up to it at night or whatever, you just see this glow of this glass. You couldn't see the floor or anything that was going on, but you just knew it was Centennial Gym. And I don't know, it would get my blood pumping as I would come into town or whatever, just
So
seeing that
you
image.
guys can relate to the movie Hoosiers.
True.
That
Truly,
is
it is.
sort of what we were going through that
Absolutely.
time with the people and the caravans going to games.
but it was a lot bigger.
But it was bigger, yeah.
Yeah.
I've been to that. That's called the Hoosier Gym that they show in that.
Okay, at
and
Knightstown, isn't it?
It's in Knightstown.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
top of the gym was hot. I mean, we
Oh,
were
yeah.
boiling hot. And you'd go down to those locker rooms and they were freezing cold and the showers were cold.
Yeah.
The showers were cold.
Oh, the other teams had to hate. They probably thought we did it on purpose.
Did you guys
None of us ever had warm water.
remember how it horseshoed around and you
Yeah.
had to stay? Do you remember when we had to run? You had to go up and you had to touch the wall, run the horseshoe, touch the wall.
Right.
And remember that? Run and forever.
Absolutely.
They say blow the whistle, run till we hear the whistle. Half hour later, you might hear a whistle.
What about doing bunny hops with weight jackets up
Oh
the
yeah.
stairs?
Yeah, you can't. Do
That's
that.
probably what wrecked the darn place.
It probably was.
Yeah, I remember Bobby Gurton always would find a weight jacket that had
Nothing
4 or
in
it.
5.
Less weight.
Yeah, there's sometimes nothing in it.
Well,
You're
he
right.
should have. He was
was
quite a
Bobby.
bit smaller.
No,
Well, there's an old gym, the old gym in Bourbon.
It's the same. It was the
Yeah.
same. I
Yeah,
remember
it's
playing
about the
some
same.
summer league
Yeah.
games over there.
Yep.
Remember the Napanee gym?
Yeah.
Napanee had an old gym. I mean, every bit as old as that, maybe older.
Well, Rochester had one. Bremen had one almost like Centennial, remember? It was
Oh,
built
yeah.
very similar to
You remember the
Centennial.
Warsaw gym with the metal posts, the big beams that came down right next to the.
But we ended up playing our senior year, all of our home games at Triton and LaVille. We only played, I think, 3 at LaVille.
One. Just one at LaVille, besides the sectional.
Okay.
We played the sectional there.
We went 22-2 our senior year and played all our home games at Triton.
Yeah.
Never had a home game.
Yeah.
Didn't think anything about it.
Because they had condemned Centennial for high school ball games. It was
Too much of an advantage.
And you get more fans. I mean, it was neat to play Triton, but yeah, again, and you know what? I just read because our junior year we played back-to-back Friday, Saturday night games there once.
Those were a blast.
And here's what Harold said at the end of the article on Friday night. He said there are no tickets at the door for tomorrow night's game. It was sold out at 2,200 tickets.
Yeah.
It was already sold out. It said that in the paper. You can't get a ticket to get in.
Yeah.
So it was.
Well, it was like that even before. Even when I was 7 and 8 years old.
Exactly.
There was the the Lonnie Wrights and the Jerkowitzes and the Al Kralovanskis.
Bill
The
Manning.
place was packed.
Yeah, it was.
Packed. Yeah, in '69, that's when Plymouth went
Steve
back to the
Phillips.
semi-state and the Go Big Red started. It was unbelievable.
I remember being at Northside when they won, and then
first time winning a
also
regional.
remember being at semi-state when we just couldn't see the clock, and we took a shot with 8 seconds
Steve
to go
Phillips
from
shot,
half court.
yeah.
And otherwise, who knows what would have happened?
Yeah, we could have been in the state
So-
finals that year.
Let me bring a highlight of those guys. You guys knew those guys. We
Yeah.
played against them a little bit when we were
Little bit.
younger growing up. But Steve Phillips, to this day, he went back-to-back 50-point games on a weekend.
Right.
But he still had the best play I've ever seen in basketball, bar none. He caught a rebound at the free throw line. When we're going this way, long rebound came to him at the free throw line. In the same motion, he went down with his legs spread, and he turned and he hiked the ball
He did.
all the way down court, hit Jim Jeffries at the free throw line, cutting in, didn't dribble, laid it up. It still gives
In
me
a game?
goosebumps.
That was in a
Did you see him in the Indiana All-Star games?
I've forgotten.
Oh God, he just went crazy. He was throwing behind the back passes. His hero was Pete Maravich, and that night he was let loose. And
Yeah, he was one
Steve
of the
Phillips.
early best guys.
First one to ever make the All-Star team from.
I don't know
Plymouth.
that year that we were sophomores, he scored 56 against Manchester at Manchester.
53 one night and 56 in
The
that. Both the same weekend.
Yeah. I was we were sophomores. He would have been a freshman.
Yeah.
And Steve was a senior.
And you got to play with
Steve
him,
played
right?
4 years. Yeah.
Because you were on the varsity. You played some of the varsity. I wasn't. I was on the JV.
I got to guard him every night, day
in
of
practice. Well, that's why he was so good then.
Yeah, that was it. He sends me thank you notes.
Does he?
Yeah.
I thought, because free throws, because he got hacked all the time.
Yeah,
So
he did shoot a lot.
Believe
Just
me.
think if he'd had a 3-point.
I'll tell you what, if there was anything, basketball was everything to Steve Phillips, and that was his deal. He was good enough in other sports he could have played. It was all he ever did was play basketball.
basketball.
All the time.
You saw him with a basketball, and he played at the junior high. I don't think the park had the courts at the time,
No,
because
no,
the
they didn't.
junior high courts outside, and
He was
all
our
sorts of games.
first Mr. Basketball from Plymouth, as far as I know.
All-Star team, not Mr. Basketball, but All-Star team.
All-Star team. Yeah, he didn't get
He didn't
Mr.
make
Basketball.
Mr. Basketball, but yeah.
We had 2 guys that should have been Mr. Basketball. Him
Could have been.
and Bruce Grimm should have both been Mr. Basketball.
Could have.
Was Skiles Mr. Basketball?
No, he should have
There's
been too.
three this year.
Roger Harden from Valpo beat Skiles out. There was no way, and that was all political, which hasn't changed much over the years.
Oh,
I always blame Harold though, because Harold didn't have a big enough route.
base.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
didn't have enough people. We did. We just weren't sure how many points we were going to win by. That was really it.
Yeah,
It
we
was-
were good.
We were good, and we knew we were good, and that's the attitude you had to have too. But
And we didn't care who got the glory. I mean, there was different parts and pieces to the team, and certain people had roles, and it didn't matter. You just wanted to win.
Go back to gym class. Remember what we did for gym class?
played basketball.
Open basketball at 6:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
We'd come into the gym and we would just play basketball up and down the court. Scouts were coming in
Scouts
because
were
of
in there in the
Grimm.
morning. Yeah, they were in there,
And we would just play, and it was high level basketball. It was good stuff. And then we'd just go out and it's like, all right, how many? We could score and we could play defense.
What would we do? What would we do at lunch?
we shoot
Free throws on a
You ever had
basket
a-
about this big.
Yeah, he'd have a small basket, and we'd go up on the deck at the high school in what's called the auxiliary gym now. But we'd have to shoot so many free throws, and we had like an hour for lunch, so we'd eat real quick, and then we'd go shoot free throws on a small basket. So
Oh
we
yeah,
try
the
to
ball
hone
would
our skill.
fit through by that much all the way, so it
There
had
wasn't
to
much room.
just fit. And then there was one big rim.
It's
One big
25 on the big rim, 25 on the small.
Was it? And we had to write them down.
And you had to put it on.
And we did. I think we were pretty good about doing it
Yeah.
and not faking it.
Yeah, I don't know.
except for Gerton.
He's coming.
And I don't know if anybody ever made more than 15, if even that many on that small
I don't
rim.
remember.
Oh, I think they did. Those guys, some of those guys could put them
Could
in.
get pretty good at it. Yeah.
We shot over 80% all the way through 3 years I was there. Of course, Phillips was shooting a lot of free throws too,
Yeah.
so that helped.
One thing neat about our senior year is we had such a following, and we were getting state recognition, so we were creeping up in the top 20, and then we had to play number 1 Riley, South Bend Riley, and they were number 1, and we were number 10.
Played them at Notre Dame at the
and we
ACC.
played them at Notre Dame at the
Oh, yeah.
ACC.
And that was like a lot of people.
Oh, well, I think it was 5,000 or 6,000, but it would have been more. But it was a
Snowstorm.
really bad snowstorm.
Snowstorm,
They
yeah.
almost canceled the game, so I think we'd had more fans.
Then we played Penn High School, who was rated higher than us, and we beat the tar out of them.
Yeah.
Beat them by 25, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Back at Notre Dame again.
I
Yeah.
remember because and it was full. There were 9,901 people there. Don't ask me why I remember that, but that was in the article for a high school game at Notre Dame University, and we did. We beat. I still
Why
remember
we-
that game and coming out and everybody was screaming and yelling.
Why we were fortunate enough to get to play there twice in Notre Dame where nobody else had. I mean, it was just such a thrill back then because the ACC was new. I mean, it was
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
newly built.
It was 3 or
And,
4 years old at the
yeah.
time.
That was
Right.
big. I'd forgotten about that. That's big time. Yeah,
It was big time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were a little nervous at first. Riley was up on
Good.
us by 15, and we came back, and I think we cut it to 4.
I think we got beat by 8.
We were so
10,
mad
but
when we
yeah.
went back there to play Penn, it didn't bother us a bit.
Right. Well, I remember we had to play South Bend Jackson, who had put us out of the sectional. They beat us in the semifinals of the sectional the year before, and they had 2 kids that were 6'7", and one of them was really beefy, John Payne, and then Dave Daniels was real thin, but they were both 6'7" in height. And
they had a good guard, Jimmy Moreland.
yep,
Don't ask me,
right.
I don't know how I remember
Yeah,
that.
yeah. But anyway, we played them in our first game, and that was our first home game at Triton, and we ended up beating them by, I don't know if we beat them by 20, but it was 18 or 20. But that was the first.
And those kids, the year before that, they beat us
Yeah,
with mostly the same kids, so that's
Yeah.
how much we'd improved
yeah,
in a year.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
There were games then after that where it was electric. I mean, you remember some of those games?
Oh,
We'd come
yeah.
out and we'd score 25, 30 points in the first quarter. We were just up and down the floor and we could guard people. And we obviously
and
had
then
people that could score.
when you got up a little bit, then everybody got to play. So we had a happy team because everybody
Oh, yeah.
was playing.
Triton was a tough game. I remember making a bad pass, turned the ball over. If they scored, either took the lead or tied the game. Late in the game, then somebody did something for us to win. But
Sure.
Triton was a tough game at Triton.
Yeah.
So that was
Yeah.
an away game
Away
where we
game.
were playing it.
But we were playing them at Triton, and
Yeah.
playing away games and not at home. So it
Just the following. I don't know. I just and Mindy that works here, Mindy Pesh at the museum.
Oh, yeah?
she was one of the cheerleaders.
Yeah, she just said the other day it was, and I didn't even bring it up. She just said it was such a community feel. She said you just look forward to those games. I mean, all you lived for was for those games on Friday and Saturday nights. I mean, everybody, that was just the thing to do in town.
And as much as you say everybody, the student body.
Yeah,
The student body was incredible at our games.
Right.
It was, and the parents.
It was
and
it was
just
our
everybody.
it was our field of dreams. It really
was. That's a good
They
point.
built it if they and now it's gone. But if they would build another community center like that,
yeah.
it would
Yeah.
come back. It was so much fun just to go. It was the best thing of the week for all of us.
Yeah.
And everyone looked forward to. We all played football too, but we all looked forward to basketball.
Yeah.
And it was
Because
great.
we played basketball year round.
Yeah.
Even when you guys were playing baseball, we were playing basketball.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
In
Sure.
football, it's like, remember playing basketball at lunchtime during football season.
Yeah. Well, and we're doing this for the sports museum, so it isn't all about basketball. But I guess we might just take it to football for a minute there because we played right there on that field and just
Right next door.
Yeah, right next door. And so we dressed in those locker rooms. How we ever all got in with our football pads and stuff is still unbelievable because the locker rooms were so small
It had to be the smelliest place.
and it stunk. Remember that smell?
Yeah.
We ate in the same place too. At
We ate in the
lunch.
Oh yeah, the kitchen wasn't very far from
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
And so there was Centennial was like almost like a second home to all of us.
Yeah.
And not us, all the guys that came before and a few
Oh,
of the
yeah.
people that came afterwards too. It's
Well, and the junior high courts were there too, which was junior high was at Centennial, so you spent a lot of time playing basketball in the summer. If you weren't at Hayden's playing, you were over to junior high playing. So,
yeah.
And Mercer would let us in the gym when it would rain. Mike Mercer
would get us in so many times to play basketball. And, yeah,
That was the only thing to do. It kept us out of trouble.
it did.
And you know what? And we would play basketball, and there would be no trouble. There would be
No.
nothing. You just go in and play, and
Yeah.
it was fun.
You might be mad for a second, but yeah, it always went away. Nothing long term that I remember ever.
I'm just
carried
sorry
on.
the kids now don't have a central place that they can get in and out of and use all the time. It's a shame. Well, Coach Yoder was my uncle's best friend. My uncle is a guy by the name of Coach Nixon. And,
That's right.
and they were best friends. So I've known Coach Yoder since I was 4 years old. And we used to ride around in their convertible. They would take me, and I was like the token little kid. I think I was a check magnet or something for him. I really
You don't remember
know.
well.
Well, I don't know. Well, I was a little kid, remember? So, but anyway,
Chicks like little
then
kids,
playing
yeah.
for those guys, he was my pal because my uncle was all over my case. I couldn't get away with anything, but Yoder was kind of the good cop for me, where Coach Nixon was the bad
He was a
cop.
great athlete. I mean, they both were great athletes
Yeah.
at Plymouth in the
But it was
late
great.
50s.
I mean, he knew the game. He played basketball himself. He played basketball at Illinois Wesleyan.
Yep.
And when we came here, I think both those guys were just maybe 2 or 3 years out of college, but they knew what they were doing. And
A little intense.
it was real intense. And then we had the other coach, Edison, was right, but he was the backup coach. And you talk about intensity, it's
And you go back to that with all three of those, and it started with Yoder. And you remember why we won a lot of our games? We were talented. We were in the best shape.
oh
Yeah.
Do you remember how much we ran
Oh,
after
I do.
practices?
I do.
Half of practice was running after practice. Just
Line
line drills,
line drills.
line drills, line drills,
Yeah.
line drills, line
Yeah.
drills.
Nothing.
Yeah. For half an hour. What was the record? Remember? I mean,
I
there was
don't
a
know.
big time number for number of line drills. That's all 4 lines: free throw, 10-second other free throw.
And since some of the teams had been real successful and won the first regional just a couple years before we, were playing a lot, they'd always bring those guys up. Those guys would run through a wall for us in practice. So, I mean, they would just spur you on to run more line drills. The Bill Mannings, the Chris Kunis's, they would run through a wall for us as
Rick
coaches.
Williams.
Rick Williams. And so, anyway, it just would spur you on. You'd try a
there
little harder.
there was a lot of hard workers that came before us.
Yeah, absolutely. That laid the
that were
groundwork.
our heroes.
Yep.
And I mean, those guys were like gods to us in a way because we were kids. That's what.
Do you remember what we used to do? I don't think we ever did it when your senior year, our junior year. But do you remember what we used to do defensively when your junior
Yep.
year, my sophomore year at Centennial?
Slap
you
the
just
floor.
did it.
Slap the floor.
Get down, slap the floor.
Yoder had to slap the floor, and that meant
Yeah.
we were ready to play defense.
That
yeah.
was the 1969 team that
Yeah.
started.
Yeah.
Still, Ted Milky's arms drug on the floor anyway.
Yeah.
Top of the 1-3-1 zone. Yeah,
Yeah.
he just had a long.
He
wingspan.
literally, yeah, you're right. He had some arms, and remember him dribbling, one hand on his hip.
Yeah.
He would dribble with the hand on his hip. Yeah, forgot about Ted.
Oh my.
So yeah,
goodness.
Yoder was pretty intense. I don't remember anything one-on-one with him that stands out to me. Remember, he always had a nickname for. I was Flaky. Hey, Hayden, you're flaky.
Yeah.
I just remember that, so I guess it was a compliment.
Well, I just remember when Bruce Grimm came up to play at Plymouth. So I don't know how that all evolved, but Grimm knew that we were going to have a good team, so he moved from Rochester up. And once Yoder knew that he was coming, he called me in the Yoder Sports Center, and he said, I want to make you 2 captains. He said, I don't know if he promised Bruce he could be captain. I don't know, but he just said, I know you know him. He said, you 2 are going to be captains. And he said, we just need to make sure this works for everybody because, he was coming into a team that was already set, but you knew he was going to shoot the ball because he was a 25, 30-point scorer.
Yoder was reading that Rochester paper I told you.
Well, I know, but he diffused all that really, and I appreciated that. And I don't know that it would have been there anyway. I think we all had the right mentalities, but he made sure he planted those seeds to diffuse.
So now I have a memory of Coach Yoder, and I think with Bruce. What was different about Bruce, other than a great basketball player, than us when we played basketball? Do you remember Remember sweatbands?
Oh yeah,
right there. He wore sweatbands.
And none of the rest of us did.
Well, I remember trying. I think some of us tried for a while because it was pretty cool to wear a sweatband. And I still remember Yoder screaming and yelling at one game. He goes, he's been wearing them his entire career. You guys, I remember that one thing, take them off. Because it did. I remember it affected how you shot. But yeah, he wore sweatbands.
You're
and
right.
Look, nobody else
has sweatbands.
I do remember getting yelled at for that. Never wore sweatbands after that.
Sense.
One showboat on the team was enough.
Yeah. Yeah, I calmed down a lot my junior year. So, yeah, but he was a good coach. From my sophomore year, where I scored quite a few points, to turn around and Grimm's in town, and now it's my job to sort of point guard, run the show, pass, don't have to score a lot. So our first game, you mentioned we blow out South Bend Jackson.
And Grimm scores 32 points.
By a bunch. And that next morning, sitting there eating breakfast, and my dad says, hey, didn't score as many points as you used to last year. And I said, I don't have to. I said, I'm just past. We got 3 guys that can score a lot of points. And I said, it's not my job. And I said, let's not talk. And he said, and he never mentioned it again.
And that's great. I appreciate you sharing that story.
I had so much fun passing the ball to you guys. You could score. It's like every pass was an assist because these guys could score so much.
Yoder made sure everybody had a key role at a different thing. I was in charge of pressure defense. Mike was the captain of the whole group. Mark, if we needed another outside shot, had no problem going back and throwing the bomb up.
Yeah.
Right.
So everybody had a role. Everybody felt important. The manager felt important.
Absolutely.
And that's part of the team mentality that I'm sure won several games for us.
One thing I wanted to share before I forget is just so when we would go to the regional games, everybody would go to the high school and all the parents would line up and there'd be a caravan of cars. So everybody would decorate their cars and then they'd drive in a caravan. And I'm talking several hundred cars would drive all together with a police escort over to Northside Gym. And then when we won in the regional, then they do the same thing going to Fort Wayne semi-state to the Coliseum. So those were neat things where the whole community again got into it and cars are all decorated up and the kids are all pumped up to go, and it was just a neat community feel. It really was. So. Well, and how about after the game when we would win a regional or sectional, then we would all come back to the high school and have a big convocation. Pep session. Yeah, we'd have a big pep session where, so this was 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, or maybe 11:30, and everybody's there in the gym, and the players got to speak, and the coaches spoke, and the cheerleaders did a cheer, and then everybody went home.
Getting back to Yoder, somehow without us, he was able to go from being a head coach with us to an assistant coach out on the East Coast to back to Penn High School for a couple of years as the high school coach.
Right.
To Ball State University, is very successful, to the University of Wisconsin. And at the time when he came back, he definitely turned the Wisconsin program around. And now it's never stopped. Yeah. Wisconsin
You're right.
has been terrific ever since. And before that, it was a losing program.
You're right.
And then I think he ended up being a scout for some of the professional.
I think he's a talent scout still. I'm pretty sure. Or I thought he was doing that kind of stuff. Maybe not for a team, but just providing the service. But wow, we just had so many great coaches. I mean, from that to Nixon to Edison to even John Davenport. Just so many guys that
the Whipper,
and then the 2 football coaches we had, Surface and Sekula. I mean, we were 8-1 both of our junior and senior years in football. So we had a lot of success, going from that standpoint. We just had great coaches. I mean,
we won
every
conference championship the senior year. We won.
Yeah.
We won the football, basketball, baseball.
Right.
I don't know how the track team did, but I wasn't on the team. So,
I was fishing.
He was fishing. He won the conference championship fishing.
Yeah.
It was we had a good senior class, but they had a good junior class and pretty good
Absolutely.
sophomore class behind
Absolutely.
us too. So
You just had people pushing you. You had to be good, and if you didn't care who got the credit, you had people pushing. It was always competitive whatever pickup game or whatever you played. So it just made you better.
You're
as a
always
team.
practicing against good competition.
Absolutely.
So it made
Even football wise, we'd play football
Sure.
and have games out there on the field and turkey bowl and
Sure.
everything was we competed.
Yeah.
yeah.
We compete
Yeah.
everything you did, and
We worked out with his brothers who were at Ball State playing at Ball
Oh,
State.
yeah,
at the
I
time.
forgot
We were-
about those guys.
We were running up and down bleacher. This is before the football season ever started, and both those guys, both Mike
Yeah, Kim and Mike both played.
were all state, one place or another.
yeah,
So it was a group deal.
yeah, it was fun to work out with those guys because it was college workout for us, and
Yeah.
we were loading in the pickup truck and flying over the railroad tracks, and we'd run a football field. Remember, we'd run 10-10s,
Yep.
8-20s, 7-30s, back, and this is back and forth. How many? And the final
And
one
this
was
is this is the end of July, early August.
yeah
so.
before we start two-a-days.
I didn't do that. My dad had me working, so I was out on the job site or something. I was digging ditches or something. I didn't get to do that fun stuff that they did.
Sometimes it wasn't really fun, but we did it. Yeah, it was. Never thought about it. It's like, yeah, if you didn't go,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go because Gary's there because I don't want him to beat me.
You don't want your brothers yelling at you.
Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
I had been to a regional before, but in more of a passive role, I guess. I was only a sophomore then. I was a sometime starter. So I'd had the experience. But the senior year, we were talking about continuing to go. So it was kind of the second time around, maybe even the third time around going.
Well, we'd all been a part of it, just enjoying it, so we knew what it took.
We'd been to Northside Gym, so it didn't intimidate. We'd been to
No.
Notre Dame twice
It didn't
that
intimidate
year.
us.
So,
yeah.
Big
So-
crowds.
but we knew we had a job to do, and we had to go through. We had to beat Warsaw twice. Once just before the end of the season, and then we had to
In the
play
regional.
them again
In
and
overtime.
And I think we beat them in overtime the first game, and then Rochester or somebody in the second game. Or who did we play in the second game?
Well, the first game we played in the regional was Columbia City.
Okay.
And we
And
beat
then-
them real bad.
Yeah, and then
By
what was
30
it?
points. But Warsaw beat Penn, I was just looking it up, by just a couple points. So Warsaw had a tough game on Friday night, and then it wasn't all on the same day. No, it was, back then it was Friday night, Saturday. It wasn't the same
we
day.
were kind of ready for it because it wasn't our first time.
Yeah.
But it was, you knew you had to play hard and play well, or they'd beat you. So I guess that's kind of
It was intense. A lot of people.
Yeah.
I had that one picture I brought show Mike of afterwards the crowd, and you could pick people out in the crowd, and and I remember it was a double overtime game, and I remember you and Wado made some big plays down the stretch.
Wado made some big free throws. I don't.
No, I just
might have got
and
some steals or something, but-
everybody was involved, and Bruce didn't
You know-
really have a good game.
to set it into perspective. I played 2 years of college basketball, and it was never as much intensity as it was in the high school
Really?
tournament. Yeah.
Even
yeah.
for
never.
Wow.
So,
But winning was fun. I remember afterwards, everybody on the court, the caravan home, and then the next week getting ready for semi-state was just crazy.
Yeah.
hey, my hands are sweating again.
I smell popcorn somewhere.
We were set up to play the number one Anderson team.
They were number one. So we'd already played number one Riley, and then Riley sort of fell by the wayside, and they weren't number one, but Anderson was number one.
They were good.
We were number 7 going into that.
Yeah.
Anderson was number 1.
And we were the only 2 ranked teams, I think, in the top 10 left. So nobody else in the state had 2 ranked teams, and we had to play each other in the first game in Seventh State. Sorry,
And they
go
got
ahead.
us. They got us by. They were probably up 14 points before we started coming back.
Yeah.
That might have been Coach Yoder's only mistake. He didn't think we could run with them. And we knew
Oh.
we could run with them, but he
Yeah.
didn't. Remember,
Yeah.
and at the end they just let us go and we cut it. Now, of course, they were trying to hold the lead. But
If I remember right, I'd have to go back and look. Somebody would know. Wasn't it 96 to 88 or something?
We got beat by 12. I think it was 96 to 84.
It was
Sorry,
a bunch of
yeah.
points that
Yeah.
for a long time was
Yeah.
the most points ever scored in a semi-state game.
Yeah.
It was like you need to outscore somebody, but they were good.
They were good.
They were very good. I think they won, didn't they? Did they win the state?
No.
Fort Wayne Northrop won the state. Because
don't
Fort
remember
Wayne
who won,
North,
but I know they
beat them.
didn't, but I don't know who did.
But I remember those big guys. They
We
were
scored
big.
a lot of points. I think our senior year, I think we broke the gym's record. We scored 105 points against
Right.
Wawasee.
Right,
And I think that was the final record for all
Right.
those points. But
right, yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
we could score some
We
points.
could score. And our defense was good. I mean, we liked playing defense, and that was important, and, yeah.
I still remember sophomore year playing, obviously with you guys, and we lost in the sectional. And I still remember the seniors that time, Kevin and
Jim,
Dietrich
Jeffries.
and Creekbaum and those guys.
Jeffries.
And I remember coming in afterwards, this just naive sophomore. And the season's over, we lost, it sucks, and they're just crying so hard.
Right.
It never
Yeah,
registered
it was
until
emotional.
till the next year, and then it's like we lose in the semi-state and state, and then at register with you guys like, oh, it's my year next year. I'm going to be a senior after that, and then it sort of hit home. The older you get, and it just means more. Especially back then, the state tournament was, one team, everybody was in it, and when you made a run, it was special.
I could carry that one step further. My son Michael lost at Warsaw against Manchester in the regional finals. And I remember driving home after that from Warsaw down 30, and my wife and I crying because we knew we'd never get to see our son play basketball again. It was just a big part of it, but it's just that finality of that last game when you don't make it. It's an emotional time if you're really invested in it. So, yeah.
Yeah, we were all invested.
We were invested.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. We were invested, no doubt.
No
doubt.
We don't remember much.
Yeah, that's obvious by the
It's so
video.
cool since I've been at coffee a few times to start when we start talking about some of those other guys. It's amazing the memories that come back that you just haven't thought about. So
Sure.
this is cool, and I hope our kids see it.
I got to share one thing that's special to me is, and these guys, I don't know if they remember it, but so when we're juniors, Gary and I, it was when we lose in 4 overtimes at Warsaw on a last second shot. When my son Michael Jr. is a junior, he wins against Warsaw in 4 overtimes at Plymouth High School. And so, I don't know, it's sort of just neat that we both were juniors and played in 4 overtimes against Warsaw. And now I'm hoping my grandson gets to enjoy that when he gets up there. So
Yeah, there's a lot of family stuff.
there is.
There's like the Williams boys, remember
Yep.
them? There's
Dan.
three boys, Dan Williams and
Rick
and Dave.
Dave.
And between those three, they were all three of them. Well, they were either number 1 or number 2 scorers for the team. I would like to know how many points they contributed
Sure,
as a family. And then you got your sons that played there. And
sure.
I don't know. I guess we can count your daughter's stuff
yeah,
too.
yeah.
Points.
Nah.
Yeah,
It just-
that's girls basketball, but it counts now.
Yeah, they had those were some good teams.
Back in the day,
Absolutely.
you're too young to remember, but the girls had just started playing high school basketball. We went to their games too.
Sure.
Yeah, because they had supported us. We thought it was only right to support them, but it was a totally different girls' game at the time.
Oh,
Yeah.
And
girls just didn't play that much.
yeah, well, they didn't have it. They didn't have the opportunity, and
Yeah.
and once they got the opportunity, they got to share in some of that stuff, and that's probably the greatest thing that's happened in our lifetime. Is and now I have daughters, and he has daughters. You have granddaughters.
Yeah.
We appreciate that now. At the time, we didn't
Absolutely.
appreciate it. But
Yeah, I was you bring up that I was coaching for quite a while when my daughter was coming up, and then her junior year, I was with the coaches I was with. I wasn't comfortable coaching my own daughter, so I stepped away and did radio and stuff. But the year I stepped away,
Sure.
they won a state championship. So maybe I was holding them back.
better step away.
Maybe I was holding them back, but I still remember. It's like, are you kidding me? But I got to broadcast the game, and there again. But that was the opportunity where class basketball comes in.
Sure.
Because if it's not class basketball, that opportunity is probably not there. I was coaching the state. They didn't win the state. We lost in the state championship then when I was coaching. And that set the tone. Like the older guys for us set the tone when we're growing up. There was a group with these girls. It was the exact same thing. They saw these play. They played with. They grew up playing. And hey, they got to a state finals. Why can't we? And still remember it's like, we're going to win this time. We're just not happy to be there.
Right.
And that's kind of the way we were our senior years.
Yeah.
Same deal. So.
Right.
That class basketball thing is probably a question that'll go on forever.
Yeah, it will.
And like you said, it gave some people an opportunity to win, but to us, it was, if you won the sectional, it was super. If you
Sure
won the
was.
regional, it was double, It was so much different then because you knew the next team was going to be a bigger school and you had bigger athletes and faster athletes. And so then it really was, it was a whole different game.
This is a county thing, so.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, that Triton team was so good too. That was probably about 8 years before.
Yeah, I think it was 65, 66, or
I remember
64,
being at
65.
Centennial watching because they
Yeah.
still had to come through Plymouth to play.
Right.
And it was everyone in Plymouth then jumped on the Triton and bandwagon.
Yeah.
And the same thing with Argus. Everyone was for Argus.
And that's what happened back then.
Yeah,
As soon
you
as
did.
you were eliminated, who's the team
And you
locally
jumped
that's still
on.
playing, that fan base came on, and it just went from there.
Coach Edison and I and our wives went
I
to the
never got on the
semi-state
workshop.
to watch Argus play, and then we went to the state. I mean, we just jumped on that bandwagon. You just enjoyed doing it. You enjoyed basketball.
I can't imagine.
Yeah.
I can't imagine life without sports. I grew up from a young kid with older brothers always playing sports and had parents that were very supportive of sports. And I don't know what I would have done if I didn't play sports.
It was the challenge that took us from being boys to being men.
Yeah.
And it was sports that pushed us through there with great guidance and all that type thing. But and in many cases, unfortunately, we didn't go to war, something like that.
We did.
So that was kind of our war, and that was kind of our, I don't want to call it a pinnacle. That's not the right idea, but it was one of our greatest challenges going to that point. Anyway,
Well, there's
something to talk about.
Now it's great memories, yeah, but it just, I mean, certainly it's carried over into all of our lives, just being competitive, working hard, putting the extra effort in your business or your work or whatever it might be, and and then
Having great mentors and having great coaches, it's kept us in the straight and narrow.
Absolutely.
The reality check was, and we all grew up, we played sports well after we were out of school, and college still played, and I can still remember being 20s, 30s, even 40s and playing a lot. It's like, yeah, we still playing. I can remember the reality check.
Yeah.
I'm playing basketball one day, and there's some guys I'm playing against that aren't really basketball players, and this will be easy, and I can't keep up.
My greatest dreams are still about sports, and my greatest nightmare is about waking up and missing the bus. I always was worried about getting to the bus on time.
Did you miss it ever?
I never.
No,
missed
but you
it.
always dreamed
I
about
was
it.
worried about it.
Yeah, those dreams have stopped, but yeah, those dreams went on for a long time. But just that reality of, I can't do this anymore,
Yeah.
and pick up a golf club
Yeah, that's when we started playing golf.
and a fishing pole.